This is Brian Putt. We're back here for part 2 about phasing capital costs over time using Excel and SIPMath with the objective of coming up with multiple distributions of the capital costs. In the first video, we talked about this process flow chart and what was needed to generate the phase capital costs. And so now I want to take you through the Excel model. Here's the Excel model. It's not particularly complex, it just has a few little pieces. The first step was to come up with historical data that represents the percent of time on the project and the percent of cost completed. And my vision is that you would have multiple projects here and multiple periods that you've collected that information. So you could have 100, you could have 500 data points. And from that, we're going to feed that into a meta log. And using SIPMath, there are other ways to get this, but using SIPMath, using a general meta log, we get this distribution. What's important here is the x-axis is the percent of time, and the y-axis is the percent of schedule. That'll be obvious how to enter that data when you use the generalized meta log. And you'll come up with a curve that's going to look like this. And what we can do is we can then generate a SIP from that, and that SIP is going to reside over here on the SIPMath chart data. So here's that CDX, and what I've done is taken that and hard-coded it over here such that I have the for each of the percentiles, I have the values, and these are all hard-coded. We're going to use that in our model. Oh, then the other piece of information we need is we need to complete the cost and schedule risk analysis for the particular project that we want to do. And here I've hard-coded a project. So I have the days to ready for startup and the cost with the burn rate. So it's a function of the schedule. So I have that information here. All right, now we're back to the model. So let's come back here. And so for the first thing we want to do is we need to have for a trial, what is the time to complete? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use an index command using the PM index to pull from that cost and schedule risk analysis results that we had for the time. And for the cost, we're going to do the same thing. We use an index command off the cost schedule risk analysis using PM index. So now we have those two things. We want to calculate an NPV of the discounted cost, so I put in a discount rate of 10%. So now we have a time series model, and I did this by months. And so here is the days from the start for the beginning of period. So in period 1 we started at 0, and in the next period I had 365 divided by 12 days. And that goes out for a number of days. The percent of time is given by the ratio of this 30 and the time to complete the entire project, so 321. We'll do that all the way across. We can then look up the percent of cost spend for this particular time, percent of time. So for example, when I've spent 13% of my time of the project, I've only spent 6% of my costs. Once again, I'm going to do a lookup command here on SIPMath chart data for this 13. So I'll be off a little bit because I only have 1% increments, but the difference between 13% and 13.16 is going to be pretty small. And in the long run, it works out just fine. And so we'll do that. I'll show you over here. We're taking that ratio again of the times, and here we're doing the lookup command. So now we want to see the total cost. We simply take that percent of cost times the cost that we sampled up here over time, and then we can calculate the NPV. This is the cum cost, right? So this becomes the time between the cost in the particular period. It's simply the difference between the current end of month cum and the end of month cum from the prior month. So this particular trial ends up with project costs looking like this, with the cum costs over here. So if we look at different trials now, that's trial 35. Let's try changing some. There's a different trial. You can see both the cum is changing and the phasing of that time is changing over the time. See, this one was back here, and now we're out here in time. So you can see how that works. Up here we can see the same thing. Here it's showing the MPV. The blue is the MPV undiscounted, and the red is the MPV discounted. And for each trial, it's showing the days and the cost. So that's all there is to this model. Not a whole lot to it, but now you could integrate this capital cost program into your financial model along with operating costs and production or revenue and everything else, and you'd have a complete model. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to learn more about SIPMath, you can visit probabilitymanagement.org. You can read The Flaw of Averages by Sam Savage. He has a new version coming out. Or you can review my YouTube channel, which has a lot of videos around many subjects. Thank you again.